Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to see all of you because I see the most of you young generation who interested in Mongolian history. We will talk about actually the people they're talking about the Mongolian history of Mongolia. That means thinking about it's Genghis Khan's area, or it's 13th century or 14th century. We will talk today just not about, as mentioned here, and it will be just 100 years ago's history. How was modern Mongolia created? How was this small country between big two countries, China and Russia, created? What was conditions, reasons? We will talk about these items. Well, the first I will little bit give you little bit information. This year, 2019, we Mongolians celebrating 150-year anniversary of 8th Bogd Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu. Actually, when this we will talk or ask some Mongolians, all the middle-aged people, Bogd was how bad, how not like to say very good words. What was this time we are celebrating 150th anniversary of Bogd Khan by the decree President of Mongolia. This is fourth time since when he was passed away, 1924, May 20. What was Mongolia? Actually, we know the history, the world history. The world was divided two big parts. The cold area, Cold War. Mongolia was one of under the communist system area. During this communist regime, the history of Mongolia was influenced by Soviet ideology. The all history, all was nations' heritage, nations' tradition, heroes was this cleaned was how was it was not true history given to people. Was on this reason what after the 1990s, after the democratic revolution in Mongolia, what all was open was all archives, documents, sources, Mongolia, Russia, and other countries. And as we will talk about on these sources, we will talk about this today's topic. Oh, actually, I forgot my. I bring some books. Maybe it's see all of you if you interested who talk my books in English. Maybe who interested this period. Well, the said decree President of Mongolia issued January 24, 2019, and to announce the 150th birth anniversary of Bogd Khan to be celebrated nationwide. In the framework of this decree, a series of activities have been organized such as opening exhibition, publishing books and documents, also international conference. Just a few days ago, we organized an international academic conference under the name Bogd Khan 150 History, Culture and Heritage, under the patronage of Mongolian President, was at the Parliament House. A wide range of presentations and discussions were discussed in the course of conference regarding Mongolian history of beginning of the 20th century and government decisions and policies of that time relating to internal and foreign affairs, defense and religion. Of course, Bogd Khan and other political figures archives dates back to the early 20th century. And so were the topics of the conference. The academic conference have been giving presentations of 33 scholars, including over 10 foreign Mongolists from Japan, Germany, Russia, Hungary, Poland, and other countries. In particular, Mongolist researchers, well-known Professor Nakami Tatsuo and Tachibana Makoto from Japan, Udo Barkman from Germany, Sergei Lvovich Kuzmin, and Lyubov Krainova from Russia, Kristina Teliki from Hungary, Karolina Zygmanowska from Poland, were taking part in the conference, as well as Mongolian researchers, professors from Mongolian Academy of Sciences and National University of Mongolia and other universities of Mongolia. Well, this is, I give you just a little information about how we celebrate this anniversary. Let me go to this today's topic. Why this is the 1911 National Revolution of Mongolia, or Bogd Khan. This is one of the main issues related to independence of modern Mongolia. That is one of the important subjects of the history of modern Mongolia. The criticisms and false judgments about Bogda, who was leader at that time of spiritual leader, starting with Donir Lama Jambal, the 1930s, the socialist ideology and struggle against religion was influenced to become the false history of modern Mongolia. Bogd was an independent mind, got married, refused to go to Beijing, was quite eccentric with original tastes, so Western objectives, but he was worshipped by his Mongolian people. The Mongols have almost forgotten at present the 8th Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu, who initiated, organized, and led that historical event, 1911, that this event gave us freedom, independence for Mongols. And as a result, many Mongolians, we are talking each other in Mongolian language and saving the as nation heritage, the history, language, everything related to Mongolian nation. He was vehemently decried and was given various names such as feudal and the blind during Mongols' recent socialist past. He was even depicted as being until his death a sovereign enemy of Mongols' independence. Well, as we are celebrating Nadam, national holiday Nadam, when we are talking just the few years ago, since 2011, we are celebrating this December 29. Do you know this is national holiday? Sure? Yeah? Right. Well, before it was not, we are celebrated. We don't know. Just little since 2011, by the decision of Parliament of Mongolia, December 23, we are celebrating this date as national holiday of Mongols. What was 1911? What was December 29 in Mongolia? Let's talk. Actually, during the 18th or 19th century, Mongolia was under the Manchu Qing Empire. And exactly this 29 December 1911, the Mongols formally proclaimed their independence. It was the culmination of the struggle they were waging under the leadership of the 8th Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu to get independent from the Manchu Qing state. About this ceremony, when I talking about how was celebrated that time, it was said in the memories of the old people, or some sources archival said it was biggest ceremony for very heart deepest occasion for Mongolians that time, as was 2008. All Mongols celebrated when we have first Olympic gold medal. It was judo Tupshumboyor in Beijing. We have because it's nowadays we have direct information through the TV or on social. Or we have Olympic gold medal champion celebrated in the biggest square in Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, or the streets. Well, they not each other known people. Kissing or saying, that was unknown to say. It's like the ceremony was mostly 100 years ago. They say it in the old people's memories. In that time this was get independent from the Qing Empire, Manchu. Actually, we will think about the mostly subjects was under the Manchu Qing Empire, still being under today's Republic of China. Maybe only one subject, named Mongolia, get independence, get territory sandwiched between China and Russia. That time was actually historical books or document source will give such many other names. Afternoon to Mongolia, Bogd Khan's Mongolia, Ookhnoi many various names given to this stage. But so if we will see sources in archival sources, they said just name, state name, just only Mongolia, not any other name. Bogdo was elevated as Bogdo, the sunshiny and merit-aged Khan of Mongolian nation, and his queen, Dondukdolam, Tsagandar, as the mother of the nation. And the reign title would be elevated by many. And accordingly, the Mongolian year of female peak, the European year of 1911 was made the first year of the elevated by many. This title was continued until 1924, when he was Bogd was his Holiness died 1924, and this title was continued until 1940 by the name Mongolian state title. And Khuree, when I give in such lecture or talk to the people, actually to the Ulaanbaatar's people, please respect Bogd Khan Bogdo, because we are living in Bogdo's Khuree. This was created as today's Ulaanbaatar was created first as Bogdo's Khuree, Bogdo's Urgo. In 1911, when was proclaimed independence, Khuree is to be called capital city, Niislel Khuree, and its name was continued until 1924, November 26, when adopted first constitution of Mongolia. Name was changed into Ulaanbaatar. Well, this name was given by representative of Comintern Riskulov. As we know, the Ulang, that means red. It means it's like communist color, right? And actually, it's Ulang with the same. It was called Jade Khuree, Verkhnudinsk, right? Word. Well, when it became as great Khan of Mongolia, Jebtsundamba Lama gave decree. He addressed the princesses and the masses and appointed ministers of his government after he was enthroned as Khan of Mongolian nation. The same day, it was called after the midday, around 12 o'clock. Mongolian government built with 5 ministries. Actually, we will see that when we are talking about today, that times Mongolia, they use it Western legal documents sources name it as elements of international law, or another one is Bloomchil's books. Use it and translate it into Mongolia from Chinese sources into Mongolia. How was should be a fundament for Mongolian government that time. By the decree, Bogd Khan, patron of the religion, server of the sent beings, and welder of the power in church and state of Mongolia, elevated by many, on distributing favors of 3, 6, and 9 lands were distributed to every old person, aged 70 to 80, 80 to 90, and 90 to 100 years old, respectively. After the favors were presented, banquet was held for the participants. I will show this picture. This is Ulaanbaatar, Niislel Khuree, 1911. Actually, it was Jugder's painted, well-known painter Jugder, 1912. And this is actually today's, we will see. This area, it's today's monument Chogyal-san, the first, the second building, and third building, National University of Mongolia. This area, they call it the Yellow Palace of Bogd Khan. That means actually it's town, central Bogd Khuree's main center. And then we will see here, this is Middle River. Actually here this Bogd Khan Palace, should be. And then this is a small city, the Buddhist center, called that time when around people living, population was 50,000, only 50,000, mostly Lamas. And then we can see here this Celibate River, and then another word, that was river. So I can show another one. Oh, this is big show. And then this is palace, Yellow Palace. This call it white. This means when we're talking white palace, Bogd Khan, it means this is all big garrison inside. And then because Mongolia was the mostly Buddhist at that time, they can't be this celebration made in this monastery, this way. But so they decided to be celebration ceremony in intronization should be in yurt, in a biggest palace. That was created that time in big palace. This is around that time. And then around here there was so many people was from all Khalkh Mongols, from Inner Mongolia, Barga, Buryatis, and was here. And what was written in sources about this occasion? Where was built government house? According to Navan Amjad, who attended the event, the state palace was large felt gear covered with yellow silk, imposed with traditional and religious designs like 9 prestigious jewels and 7 offerings in blue silk, set up an empty space between the Chingalba temple with the golden roof and the Dorjbavarn temple, both of which are located inside the Bogdo Palace, yellow fence which had been extended to the north to make more space. This means that one is this one. About ceremony, state ceremony. An interesting work about the ceremony is Ugumbicheching by the Navanamjal, who attended it and depicted what he saw. He wrote, "The 9th day of Minty month came. There were so many people gathered that it was impossible to see where the crowd ends. princesses, officials, Khutukhtus, and Lamas in their official headwear, jackets, and variegated tails were files. Soon after I took my position, among them the sound of cannons firing salute, heard coming from the vicinity of the temple as up. When Bogdo and Tserenchimed came, all those gathered comforted and became quiet. Bogdo and his consort were sitting in beautiful Russian yellow four-wheel carriage, flying a golden flag, 8 attendants and the Lamas carrying and leading the carriage. When Bogdo and his consort came in through the central gate of the palace, all those princesses and Lamas followed them. All princesses and Lamas close to Bogdo were already in the gate palace. This is Winter Palace of Bogd Khan, and now a museum. Most of you have been here. And Bogd Khan and his queen was moved from this Bogd Khan's Winter Palace into the center place. Oh, this is Gir Palace. Actually, what this is. This biggest Gir unusually was should be the first Mongolian government house of modern Mongolia. According to Master Zhao Witte, mentor and the Mongolian language teacher of Bogd Khan, when Bogdo Gegenteng was invited and elevated to the prestigious throne at 11 a.m., prestigious vice called Tserenchimed was also elevated as mother of the nation. A thunderbolt crown and jade seal, golden diploma, and as was Mongolian tradition and custom, 9 white gifts, a white camel, and silver camel's nose pig, several white horses with sable tufts, 8 haddocks with sable tufts, educated were presented to the Bogd Khan, and the mother of the nation also. All those present in the state palace prayed for them by prostrating 3 times and Khutukhtu 9 times. Bogd Khan has 3 seals: the white jade seal and the silver seal of Jebtsundamba, Khan of the Mongolian state, and the seal of the and Ichtagan also has silver seal. And another one Bogd Khan has the golden seal for as spiritual leader. All these seals now you can see in Find of Treasure of Mongolia. It's open for public. You can see to go to the Mongol Bank of Mongolia, go to the Find of Treasure. You can see all these seals and other related to the Bogd Khan's items. There were 3 seals for Bogd Khan: prestigious jade seal presented to him as Khan, radiant as the sun and marriage, aged and the welder of power and church and state, a prestigious silver seal, and the Lama's golden seal used by him as Bogd Lama. You can see now this one, jade seal, another one, silver seal. All script Mongolian, not used Manchu, Chinese, Tibetan, any other languages, any other script not used. As is Uyghur Mongol, you know, it's Soyumba. The grip of Bogd Khan's state seal had shape of Chandaman as to symbolize the Mongols' aspiration to preserve and protect their independence and freedom. There were inscriptions on the top and 4 sides of Bogd Khan's silver stele. Here, there's the 4 sides. And then it said, they read, the sky calm, world tranquil, state very strong, and religion very holy. That one is golden seal. It's written in Mongolian language. Can you read this one? Shashimash? Tongola, right? Yeah, sure. This is nation's mother seal, also silver, the same words around 4 sides. The Khan's throne, the back of throne had 9 dragon patterns and inscriptions in Manchu Amban letters. Actually, it's mostly influenced by Indian or Tibetan traditions. The great Khan, Emperor of Mongolia, 8th Bogd Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu, and Queen, or he called at that time State Mother Dalai. Actually, the Bogdo was born in Tibet, and this is 80th incarnation of Bogd Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu. When he was 5 years, came to Mongolia in 1874. After he was arrived, being in Mongolia, and his life was closely connected with Mongolia until he is this 1924. He grew up with Mongolian people and as Mongolian child. He speaks fluently in Mongolian, and actually I'd like say Bogdo is Tibetan Mongolian, as called Obama is Africa American. Actually, Bogdo is Tibetan Mongolian, you can say. For the people, in Buddhist people, of course, he is spiritual leader, Bogdo. It doesn't matter who is from where he was born. In 1910, actually, the 8th Bogd, during the Manchu Qing Empire, we have the 8th incarnation Bogd Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu. Since the first 2 was Mongolian, and other was Tibetan, was incarnations. 8th Bogd Khan never has been in Beijing. Khutukhtu or Living Buddha, how was called that time Mongolians, is venerated as much as Dalai Lama in Tibet. When he reached in adulthood, he was to go to Peking, Beijing, to pay tribute to the Manchu Emperor and get a blessing at Buddhist temple there. Since the Peking government was concerned about the influence of an adult and independent Khutukhtu, blessed Khutukhtus often happened to suddenly die in their way back to Khuree, and their incarnations were sought and found. But this Khutukhtu didn't go to Beijing. When he reached adulthood, this put the pressure of Peking and those who surrounded him, postponing his trip under the various pretexts. He was safe in Khuree, and it was possible in Khuree to prevent from Peking's direct assassination attempt on his life. In 1910, his decree called "The situation in Manchu and China shows that the time has come. Now it is high time for the many eye-makers of our Mongolian nationalities to unite, establish their own state, promote their religion, and see an end of their suffering. But it will require unanimity of will and the joint efforts of all." Only 8th Bogd Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu has degree of Gavjo, such doctor degree. Mongols revoice a new, or more specifically, her revival has become a reality in Asia, wrote in UK's newspaper. In January 1st, 1912, issue of Harbinsky Vestnik, Russian newspaper, published in Harbin, Manchuria, noted, "The ceremony of elevating Khutukhtu to the throne was attended by many Mongolian secular and religious people and was held in an atmosphere of much festivity." Newspaper Reach of Petersburg, Russia, wrote, "Today's memorable day of Mongolia, the elevation of Khutukhtu as Mongolia's Khan, as marks end of the period when Mongolia was dependent on Manchu Qing state." Newspaper Petersburg Vedomosti wrote, the Khutukhtu of Khuree, head of the religion, became an expresser of independence of his nation's religion and state. Having proclaimed her independence, Mongolia became one of the first independent nations born in the beginning of the 20th century. The more continued many of newspapers from Russia, from Great Britain Times, for example, newspaper Times wrote, Britain noted when reporting about event, Mongols' reports of new or more specifically for her revival has become reality in Asia. Such was continued to information to the world. And a little bit talking about what was before the 1911 Mongolia, how Mongols came to this achievement. Well-known diplomat, Russian, Yakov Shmeryov, Russian General Consul in Mongolia, who spent some 50 years of his life in Mongolia, noted that when writing about Mongols in 1885, in case conditions are to be created for the Mongols to be united, the Khalkhas are certain to lead the movement towards it. Many factors account for that. The most important one is that in Khalkha does reside the incarnation of Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu, who all the Mongols and Khalmiks venerate. Continued, the Mongols remember their history. They have not forgotten the struggle that they had led for centuries against the Manchu Chinese and for their independence extents. The Mongols don't like to see themselves oppressed. They have many strikes or rebels of like such Toktok, Taich, Haiseng, Baojiao from Inner Mongolia and others against Manchu authority and Chinese in the beginning of 20th century. Throughout the Manchu regime, the Mongols were in the position of privileged people, and also this status ensured peace and certain amount of prosperity. It separated the Mongols of the last vestige of those dualities which had made them conquerors of 3/4 of the world. Towards the latter part of the regime, when Chinese culture had already enveloped the Manchus, the effects of Chinese colonization and infiltration also began to be felt by the Mongols, and the downfall of the Manchus also spelled their doom. A steady stream of Chinese immigration took place, and its wake followed radical change in the land laws, which annulled the validity of title deeds formerly granted by the Mongol princesses. This process actually affected Inner Mongolia only by served to alienate Outer Mongolia, which by reason of its remoteness had escaped the Chinese infiltration. How was Manchu New Policy courses? The Manchu authority asked many times in the beginning of the 20th century, asked Bogd Khan and the Hans, asking the following questions. Please give clear answer. First, why it is considered impossible to let into Mongolia, which has a vast territory and a small population, Chinese citizens and let them engage in farming? How construction of railway between Khanddorj and Khuree would affect the above situation, and what are their justifications? If the Chinese settlement and their engagement in farming, as well as the construction of rail and after vehicles roads, are indeed to negatively affect Mongols' nomads and animal husbandry, why engagement in mining is also considered to be negative? Bogd Khan and other Mongolian princesses, after thorough consideration of the questions, defended their previous position on opposing to the Chinese settlement in Mongolia and their engagement in farming, and expressed their conviction that mining would entail many negative consequences for pastoral livestock breeding required moving to mountains during the winter. The meeting of the Mongolian princesses with Bogd Jebtsundamba made all participants to realize and that Mongols' life was becoming precarious and required a lot of attention and efforts to protect it. And it was a secret meeting with the deepening of the conflict between the Mongol princesses headed by the Khutukhtu and the Manchu authorities over the implementation of the new Manchu policy, particularly over the increase of the Chinese troops in Khalkha. The princesses were said to have proposed to Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu that secret meeting of the princesses of 4 Khalkha Khanates and the Saks be held to discuss the actions against them in June of 1911. Decided how to propose to the new Manchu police course and restore Mongols' independence. Decided to send a special delegation to Russia to kindly explain Mongol situation and seek an assistance. Decision noted that also it was necessary to get independence and protect Mongols' religion and territory, it was very difficult to do so without foreign assistance, and that Khanddorj, Dalai and Tserenchimed and the official Haisang were appointed as delegation. This is photo, as we know, Khanddorj, who was head of delegation and later became as Minister of Foreign Affairs. And then another one, Dalai and Tserenchimed, who was mostly educated person and became as the first, like the Minister of Internal Affairs, as like Prime Minister until the middle of 1912. And Haisang Gung from Inner Mongolia, who was the third member of delegation who headed into Russia. The political events taking place after the meeting held in Khuree during the Danshek offering to Bogdo in summer of 1911 and Princess's secret meeting held in the Bogd mountain show that provisional government was in effect established in Mongolia. This institution was formalized and was named in General Provisional Administrative Office for Affairs of Khalkha Khuree on the 30th November 1911. An important object of the provisional government was to restore and declare Mongols independent, which the provisional government did on 4th December 1911, proclaiming the end of the year of Manchu rule and the establishment of Mongols' independence. Flag with Soyomba letter, a symbol of national liberation and independence, thus began to fly in Khuree. This is the head of the provisional government, Shegun Chagdarjau, the later became as Minister of Finance. The flag with Soyomba letter, symbol of national liberation and independence of Mongolia. The Soyomba letter was continued still today in Mongolian flag through the communist regime. Sando, the last Manchu Amban who resided in and was expelled from Khuree. He was descendant of family from Shodontsang Khosho from Inner Mongolia, the last Manchu Amban Sando, and his officials, those expelled, left Khuree on the December 4, 1911, under the escort of Russian Kazakh troops and went to Khutukhtu and crossed the border there. Little bit talk about, we have time, right? Right, until we have more, okay, 5 or 10 minutes. What was Mongolia after the 1911? Well, we'll sign agreement between Russia and Mongolia, conclude the agreement, Treaty of Friendship, 1912, November 3rd. Signed it from the Russian side, representative of government of Russian Krostovets Ivan Yakovlevich, and from the Mongolian side, Prime Minister Sani Honnamunsureng, other 5 ministers. This is Treaty of Friendship, called in Mongolian Niislel Khuree, 1912, and then this is both in Mongolian and the Russian side languages. This is signed. You can see sign here. And Thus, Russia and Mongolia conclude Treaty of Friendship. It's a forced agreement after the proclamation of independence. That's a conclusion of agreement between Mongolia and Russia was in itself an event that made traditional relations between Mongolia and China obsolete and opened an opportunity for New Mongolia to enter into equitable relations with any country of the world. Thus, Russia recognized the independence of Mongolia and his government by this agreement. In that time exactly was election in America. President of the United States Woodrow Wilson noted on the April 7, 1913 that Russia did mistake that it recognizing independence of Mongolia. We will not do that. Also, Chinese foreign minister expressed it like this in that time. After that time, signed treaty between Mongolia and Tibet, having freed themselves from the Manchu dynasty, the Qing Empire, and separated from China, have formed their independent states, and having a view that both states from the immemorial have proposed one of the same religion, and with the view of strengthening their historic and mutual friendship, have concluded agreement in January 1913 in Niislel Khuree, Mongolia. This is treaty in Tibetan language, so we have in Mongolian language. And we have Sino-Russo-Mongolian character treaty agreement in 1915 in Khutukhtu. These three-party negotiations between China, Russia, and Mongolia, which started September 8, 1914, lasted 9 months, continued from the 1914 well into 1915. Obviously, negotiations were of critical importance of consequences in addressing the issue of independence of the 20th century. And this the main meaning of the negotiations concerning of Mongolia continued until 1945, Yalta negotiations, big three countries world. Let me concluding. The separation in 1911 of the Mongols from the Manchu Qing state and the proclamation of the restoration of their independence opened a new area in their history. Elevation of the 8th Jebtsundamba as Khan was not only an demonstration of Mongolia becoming an independent state, but also an expression of faith of many Mongols. With the elevation of Jebtsundamba to the throne as Khan of the Mongolian nation and the naming the nation Mongolia, the area elevated by many, and Niislel Khuree, new history began in the early 20th century for the revival of Mongolian nation in Asia. Number of factors cases is certain to have led to the enthronement of Bogd Khan. He, for one, was a religious leader of the Mongols, and by 1911 he managed to become the most popular statesman, political leader. Luba, Russian consul, who was living in that time in Mongolia, wrote in 1912, "If the history of the last few years of Mongolia is ever to be written, it will underline with gratitude the brave and resolute initiative of 8th Bogd Khan, who accomplished what the bravest minds could only dare to contemplate." He added, "Khutukhtu is without doubt the person who led the event that led to the independence that Mongolia enjoys now." Mongols considered that since undergegangen of the first Bogd Jebtsundamba was the son of Jade Khan, who was Chinggis' golden lineage, his incarnations were naturally related to the golden lineage. After being elevated as the Khan of the Mongolian nation, Bogd Jebtsundamba, his Queen Ikhtagan Dondoglam, used to pay visit on the fourth day of every lunar new year Tsaransar to and set fire in the hearths of the palace gate of Batsaikhan Khan, the father of Khanddorj. It may have meant to express the continuation of tradition of Mongolian statehood, as the princesses of golden lineage and the influential statesmen may have instituted this ritual, and Bogd Khan, an intelligent and sensitive person, supported it. If Bogd Jebtsundamba Khutukhtu could become an object of veneration of Mongolian national religion before 1911, he surely became, after the national revolution of 1911, not only a spiritual but also a political leader, ruler of the Mongols in the true sense of the word. He is the father of the national revolution, which marked the revival of the Mongols. Thank you very much.